Welcome to CCIP 101 for the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant. My name is Marcia Ward, and I'm going to be your guide for today. During this presentation, I will cover information that you will need to be successful when managing the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant that you received through the Ohio Department of Education. We will discuss some of the primary systems that you will be using, including the OHID portal, the CCIP, reporting systems, and OEDS. The department utilizes a series of systems to manage grants to schools and other outside organizations. OHID is the state's security portal. It provides secure system authentication and authorization, allowing access to individual systems. OEDS, the Ohio Education Directory System, is used by the department to manage organization and associated personnel data. The CCIP is used to manage grants from application entry and scoring through award, reimbursement, and final expenditures. In general, the compliance system is used by grantees to report progress and outcomes and provides ODE a consistent method for monitoring grantees across the agency. For the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant, however, ODE plans to use the Ohio K-12 Help Portal to collect information, including purchase and usage information. Let's go over each of these systems in more detail. OHID provides users with a more secure and private experience during online interactions with State of Ohio programs. Users with an OHID account can access multiple state applications by only entering their username and password once. This includes applications hosted by the department, including OEDS and the CCIP. It does not include the Ohio K-12 Help Portal, as it is hosted by the Management Council and is not part of the state's security system. Anyone that interacts with the state agency in the state of Ohio can have an OHID account. If you already have an OHID account that you currently use to access any state systems, you will use this screen to log in. If you think you may have an account, you can use the Forgot Your User ID link to find it. You can also reset your password using the Forgot Password link. If you do not have an account, click on the Create OHID Account to create one. Please keep in mind that your OHID account is specific to you and should not be shared with anyone. It is not organization-based. The link to your organization for use with department systems happens in OEDS, which we will cover shortly. After successfully logging in, you will be taken to the OHID landing page. From here, you can manage your account and access any sites and applications that apply to you. Click on Sites and Applications to view the systems that you have access to on the OHID platform. Before you will be able to access the CCIP from this site, you will need to be sure that you are set up correctly in OEDS. Again, we will cover OEDS soon. As I mentioned, you can access applicable systems regardless of the hosting state agency from this site. All of the systems you see in the first page of my list are Ohio Department of Education systems. If you have multiple pages of applications, you will see the paging button, which will allow you to browse your available applications. The systems appear in alphabetical order. If there is an application that you want to always appear on your dashboard for easy access, click on the star icon to make it one of your favorites. You can also search for applications using the search function or filter by category or by state agency. After you have found the CCIP, click on the Go to Site link. After clicking on the CCIP link, you will be taken to the CCIP homepage. There are several things on this page that we should address. Always be sure that your name appears below the left menu. If your name is not there, you are not properly logged in to the OHID platform. The CCIP has a 30-minute timeout. The session timeout timer in the right corner will tell you how long you have until you must log in again. This timer resets at 30 minutes with each save or page change. If you click on Save after the timer has gone to 0, the information you entered will not save, so it is important for you to monitor this. Announcements and reminders can be placed on this page by ODE program staff. Occasionally, you may find Broadband Ohio connectivity information here, although our primary contact will be through the CCIP history log, which we will see soon. You will use the left menu to navigate through the CCIP system. To access the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant, hover over Funding, then click on Funding Applications from the left menu. The Funding Applications page is the home page for all active applications for your organization. Before moving forward, please verify that the organization is the correct organization and that the fiscal year is 2021. If the organization is incorrect, you will need to check your OEDS setup. If you have CCIP-related OEDS roles for multiple schools or organizations, you will need to select the one that you are working on before moving forward. All grants for which your school or organization has been awarded or may qualify will be listed. This is normally based on the OEDS organization type, such as public district, non-public, educational service center, community school, and others. Having a grant on your list does not mean that you have been awarded that grant. The status of each grant application is listed. Click on the Broadband Ohio Connectivity link to access the actual application and its various sections. The Sections page is the home page for your grant. Anytime you are unclear as to where you are, return to the Sections page. But the first rule of the CCIP is never use the back button. Always use the navigation available in the application itself, either the left menu or any of the available links on the page. After going to another page, there will always be a Go To button, which will allow you to navigate to other areas of the grant or to return to the Sections page. I spoke earlier about your name being displayed under the menu. If at any time your name does not appear there, you are no longer logged in and your access has changed to a public view, which is limited to seeing grant information that has already been approved. You may not work in that state. Your organization and grant information is displayed at the top of the page. It is always a good idea to verify that you are working on the correct grant. This area lists the organization name and IRN, your county, the fiscal year, the grant name, and the revision that you are working in. After a grant has been approved, revisions can be made in order to modify your budget if necessary. In this example, we are working in revision 0, which is the original application. Now let's talk about some of the other items on this page. The status of your grant application is displayed at the top of the page. We will talk more about status soon. For now, let's move on to the application sections. The first is the history log. The history log is the message center for your grant. It provides a way to communicate with the department and to record various information related to the grant. Let's look at it a little closer. As I mentioned, this is the message center used for any grant. Messages displayed on this page are specific to an item associated with the grant. In this case, you will see that we are in revision 0, the original application. If another revision is created, a new history log will be created for that revision. A history log is also created for each project cash request, or PCR, and your final expenditure report, or FER. You can use the View All Status and Comments link to see all grant comments. History log comments are created by the system automatically when there is a status change. Other comments are created by appropriate users at the department or the grantee. Anyone with the appropriate role can add a comment. In this example, the only comments to date have been created by the department. The comments are normally listed in chronological order, unless there is a check in the Attention Needed box. If an entry is checked, it will stay at the top of the list of comments regardless of how many have been added. Let's go back to the Sections page. To do that, I simply hover over Save and go to display the flyout menu. Then click on Sections. You can see that you can go directly to other sections of the grant, but we will return to the Sections page to continue our journey today. The next section we're going to look at is allocations. The resulting page will list allocations associated with the grant. If your allocation changes for any reason, it will be indicated on that allocations page. The next section is the heart of your application, where you will enter your budget and upload all required documents. We will return here in a few moments. For now, let's move on to contacts. The contacts page is simple but very important. You cannot submit your budget and documentation until you have selected a contact from your list of eligible personnel. The list of available personnel is based on the OEDS rules for your organization. If you attempt to submit your application without a contact, you will receive an error message. Now, let's go back to the section. The next section shows the substantially approved dates associated with this grant. The substantially approved date indicates when you may begin obligating funds. The system will automatically set the date as the date that you submit your original application. This is standard for most grants. For the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant, you may submit expenditures for reimbursement for qualifying purchases made on or after July 1st, 2020. As you may have already seen, we have added a history log entry that officially makes the substantially approved date July 1st, 2020. That is the date that will be used when reviewing your submitted expenditures. The last section on this page is the assurances. Assurances are the standard assurances that apply to every federal grant managed through the CCIP. During the grant submission process, your authorized representative must acknowledge and accept these assurances. In the case of the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant, there are additional assurances required. These were not built into the system, but are required to be signed and uploaded with your initial CCIP application. Now it's time to cover what you have to do to accept the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant and submit your budget and official application to the department. The current status of your application is listed at the top of the Sections page. On your first time into the system, it will say Not Started. To begin entering your application, click on the Draft Started link. When you click on that link, you will receive a confirmation window. Click on OK to complete that process. If you are unable to upload any documents or save budget changes, the first thing you should always do is verify the application status. Changes can be made to your application information only when it is in Draft Started, Revision Started, or any of a number of return statuses. A revision is used only if you need to do a budget revision after your initial budget and application have been approved. Verify that the application status has changed to Draft Started. It is now in a state that will allow you to complete the listed application sections. For the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant, you will use the Budget and Upload View Documents links. Let's start with the budget. When you click on this link, you will be directed to the budget. You will need to enter your budget on this page. You will see your allocation and remaining amounts. The allocation matches your award. The remaining amount will change as you enter budget numbers to indicate how much is remaining to be budgeted. If you intend to utilize the entire awarded amount, your remaining amount should be 0 when you are finished with your entries. You will enter your information in the appropriate object and purpose code categories. While the entire budget grid is available, there are several restrictions related to this grant. Your application will be returned to you if your budget is not accurate. Indirect costs are not permitted with this grant. The entire grant award must be used to provide connectivity to students. No staff may be funded with this grant. Therefore, there should be no salaries, or fringe benefits included in your budget grid. Purchase services are limited to those services that provide direct connectivity to students. They may not include contracted services for staff resources. The other object code should be used only if a purchase cannot be placed in another column. I recommend reaching out to CRF Connect before entering any planned purchase in other to verify that they are eligible expenses. When you have completed your budget entry, use the Go To button to return to the Sections page. The last step to entering your application is to upload required documents. There are several documents that are required. The first is a PDF of the original application you entered into the Ohio K-12 Help portal. The PDF was presented to the user at the time of submission. The next is a signed copy of the assurances specific to this grant. The link included in your original award notification was to a general CRF assurances. For this grant, there are modified assurances which must be signed. Please be sure to upload the correct version, which specifically indicates BroadbandOhio connectivity in the title. They are available on the Ohio K-12 Help page dedicated to this grant. Your application will be returned if either of these documents is not included. The next document you may need to upload is a modified plan. If your original plan has changed due to an ineligible purchase or change in plans, you must submit a modified plan. A template for the modified plan is available on the Ohio K-12 Help webpage as well. Even if you are submitting a modified plan, you must submit the original application. The last item I will mention is supporting documents. As you must submit supporting documentation and proof of purchase with your project cash request, they are optional here, but may be submitted with your application if you would like for them to be reviewed for eligibility. When your budget has been entered and all documents have been uploaded, it is time to submit your application to the department. Application submission is a 3-step process, all consisting of status changes. The system basically walks you through it through the available links. Always remember the current status is at the top. The first action that must be taken is to change the status to draft completed. That can be done by the same person that entered the information or by anyone with an appropriate OEDS role. If a budget has not been entered, you will be presented with an error message. These error messages will also be available through links in this area of the Sections page. The system will not stop you from entering an incorrect budget or not having appropriate uploaded documents. However, your application will be returned to you during the review process if it is not submitted correctly. Please take the time to review these items before submitting. After the status is changed, no changes may be made to the budget or uploaded documents unless the application is officially returned. After the status is changed to draft completed, the Change Status To link will change to allow one of 2 actions that must be taken by your treasurer or CCIP fiscal representative. These are OEDS roles associated with your organization. The first possible action is a status change to fiscal representative approved. If the reviewer identifies an error in your application submission, they can change the status to fiscal representative returned. This will allow changes to be made to the budget and/or uploaded documents. The application would then need to go back through the same status changes of draft completed, then fiscal representative approved. The final step for application submission to the department is a status change to authorized representative approved. This action is taken by someone in your organization with either the superintendent or CCIP authorized representative role in OEDS. Again, if this person identifies an error, they can return the application for correction. The department's BroadbandOhio Connectivity Grant Team reviews all applications that are in authorized representative approved status. If everything is in order, they will mark the application as final approved. If the team determines that the application is not complete or contains ineligible planned expenditures, they will change the status of the application to returned not approved and make a history log entry explaining the reason for the return. When the grant has been changed to final approved status, funds are officially available to you. When the application is in final approved status, you may request reimbursement for qualifying purchases by entering a project cash request or PCR. Let's go over that process now. A project cash request, or PCR, is entered into the CCIP to request reimbursement for qualifying expenditures. To submit a PCR, hover over the funding item on the left menu. To access the flyout menu, which includes project cash requests, click on that link. Please note that your menu may look slightly different than mine, as I have a different level of access than you do. Regardless, project cash requests will be an option if you have the appropriate OEDS role for your organization. Clicking on that menu option will take you to the project cash requests set of. This first page indicates the basic status of your grant funding. Verify that the fiscal year and grant name are accurate. The available budget indicates the amount that you have budgeted. This may or may not match your award amount if you did not budget for your full award amount. The received amount indicates how much funding you have received from the grant so far through submission of PCRs. In this case, it is 0, as no PCRs have been submitted. Click on the BroadbandOhio connectivity link to move to the next step in the process. The project summary page provides a summary of the project or grant. It includes some basic fiscal information regarding the grant that is automatically generated by the system. We need to address some of the information found here. The first is the initial substantially approved date. As I mentioned earlier, this will automatically indicate the date your application was submitted. The history log entry we made operationally changes that date to 7/1/2020. Despite the fact that it isn't changed in the system. The second is the project end date. As with the last date we discussed, this is a standard date generated by the system. As we have consistently stated, the BroadbandOhio connectivity grant actually ends on 12/30/2020. The next area of this page contains all submitted PCRs for the selected grant. In this example, there is one PCR that is in draft started status. There may be only one PCR in progress at any time. If a PCR is started, you may not submit another one until that PCR is fully processed and paid. If a PCR may be entered, there will be a link to start a new PCR in this area. Similar to the application, the PCR homepage is the Project Cash Request Sections page, which contains the status and history log. This status and history log are specific to the PCR being reviewed. The request link is used to access the details of the PCR. On the request page, you will enter the expenditures related to the grant in the appropriate object code. In the first request for any given grant, it will be the amount that you are requesting at this time for this reimbursement. On future requests, you must enter the year-to-date amount rather than the amount for the current request. At any time as the request is being entered, you can see the current request amount based on your entries in the negative amount box. For the BroadbandOhio connectivity grant, you must also provide supporting documentation that details your reimbursement request. This could include purchase orders, invoices, service contracts, proration calculations if appropriate, or any other documentation that will provide the department with enough information to validate your request. Only one file may be uploaded for each PCR. So all documents must be combined into one file. That file is limited to 1 megabyte in size. If your file is larger than 1 megabyte, please make a history log entry that indicates that the file is too large for upload and email the documentation in one file to crfconnect@education.ohio.gov. When the PCR is ready for submission, the status must be changed from draft started to draft completed, then to fiscal representative approved. These status changes can be found on the sections page of the PCR. Please note that a project cash request does not require authorized representative approval as the application did. All PCR requests for this grant are on a hold status. They will be reviewed by the Department Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant Team before they are approved and paid. We will be verifying eligibility of the purchased items as well as student counts against submitted device counts. The status of your submitted PCR can be tracked on the project summary page that we viewed earlier. At the end of the grant, there will be two final steps you must take. One is the final expenditure report, or FER, which is submitted through the CCIP. More information about that will be made available as the time gets closer. In addition to the FER, you'll be required to report additional details regarding the count and category of students affected, usage information available, and other items that were detailed in the kickoff presentation. The department offers additional resources you can access to assist you in managing your grant and utilizing the CCIP. The CCIP document library, which is accessible from the CCIP left menu, has an entire section devoted to the CCIP and how to use it. The Grants Administration Office has published numerous manuals and documents to assist you as well. They can be found on the department website by searching Grant Management or Grant Administration. Now let's spend a little time on OEDS. The Ohio Education Directory System, or OEDS, is a decentralized directory data system in which organizations maintain their own data. For the CCIP, that means that your organization controls who within your organization has access to the system. That access is controlled by assigning roles. Roles may be assigned in the CCIP by the OEDS administrator. Each organization must have at least one OEDS administrator and may have more than one. You can use OEDS to identify who has roles in the system. If your organization does not have an OEDS administrator, or if the listed OEDS administrator is no longer with your organization, you may reach out to the appropriate data custodian for assistance. Data custodians are assigned by organization type and can be found on the ODE website by searching Data Custodian. We will talk more about this when we go over OEDS. The roles needed for the Broadband Ohio Connectivity Grant include Data Entry Funding CCIP, which allows the user to enter the grant application information. CCIP Fiscal Representative or Treasurer, who will review the application and submit project cash requests. And the CCIP Authorized Representative or Superintendent, who approves the application for submission to the department. You can access OEDS through the OHID portal or directly using the link shown here. This link is a public link and does not require login in order to see certain details of organizations. The public information is limited, so it is best to be logged into the OHID portal when you access OEDS. When you access OEDS, you are taken to the dashboard, which is about you personally. It provides all of your direct links to organizations in OEDS. In this example, you are seeing my dashboard. The page displays the organization or organizations to which you are associated within OEDS. You may have roles for multiple organizations, which is permissible. Remember, it is up to each organization to determine who should be associated with their organization and have access to systems on their behalf. If you do have roles in multiple organizations, you can view one organization at a time by changing the drop-down selection. All of your roles for the listed organization appear in this section of the page. If you do not have a specific role for your organization in OEDS, you may not have a list here. To access other roles assigned within your organization, click on the View Organization Details button. If you aren't currently assigned to an organization or want to view a different organization, you will use the Search Organization link at the top of the page. The organization overview gives you a bird's eye view of the selected organization. The organization detail includes the organization name and org type. There are numerous organization types in OEDS, including all forms of K-12 schools, colleges and universities, and community service organizations. Again, any organization that does business with the department can be found in OEDS. The organization type can be used by the department to limit grant applications in the CCIP. The IRN can also be found on this page. The IRN is a unique 6-digit number assigned to each organization in OEDS. It is the unique identifier used by many of the department systems. Whenever you are working with the department, it is very useful for you to have your IRN available. There are numerous schools and other organizations in the state that have the same or similar name. So that IRN is really what sets a school or other organization apart from others that have the same name. The physical and mailing addresses are also listed on the overview page. An organization may have numerous addresses in OEDS. Additional addresses, if they exist, can be viewed by clicking on the Show All Addresses link. The relationships area of this page provides other primary organizational relationships. The hierarchy organization tells you what organization is the next one in the step up in the hierarchy. For instance, in a traditional public school, the hierarchy organization for an individual school building will be the district. If there is no official hierarchy relationship, the organization name will appear in this field as well. In the bottom right of the page are the primary roles assignments for the organization. Not all roles are listed on this page. On the overview page, only the superintendent, treasurer, principal, and/or the OEDS organization administrator will be listed. All other role assignments can be found by clicking on the Show All Roles and Persons button at the bottom of this section. The Personnel page lists all roles available to a selected organization. Available roles are dependent on the organization type of the selected org. For instance, a community service organization will not have the superintendent role available to them. Instead, they can assign a CCIP authorized representative. Each role in the list will identify the number of persons currently assigned to that role for the organization. If you click on the number of persons for a specific role, a pop-up window will be displayed identifying who is currently assigned to the selected role. In most instances, a role may have more than one person assigned. There are several for which that is not the case. The roles of superintendent, CCIP authorized representative, treasurer, and CCIP fiscal representative may have only one person assigned to it at any given time. You can page through the available roles or search by all or part of the role name. These can be handy tools as there are organizations and OEDS that have numerous pages of assigned roles. The bottom section of the Personnel page lists all personnel assigned an OEDS role within the organization. This list is in alphabetical order by name, and a person is listed once for each role to which they are assigned. In this example, you see that Name 1 is assigned to 4 district roles in OEDS, and Name 3 is assigned to 2 roles. Name 2, however, is assigned to just 1 role for the organization. Again, the assignment of roles within an organization is handled by the OEDS administrator, and there can be more than one person assigned to the OEDS administrator role. I would like to go over the OEDS roles required for the BroadbandOhio Connectivity Grant one last time. The first is Data Entry Funding CCIP. This role allows the user to enter the grant application information and to also begin the submission process by changing the status to draft completed. There is no limit on the number of personnel assigned to this role. The next is CCIP Fiscal Representative. Another option for the same level of system access and responsibility is treasurer. This person reviews the completed application, moving it on to the authorized representative, and submits project cash requests. Only one of these two roles may be signed by an organization, and only one person may be assigned to the role at any given time. And finally, CCIP authorized representative. The equal role in regard to system access is the role of superintendent. This person acts as the final organization reviewer and approves the application for submission to the department after it has been approved by the fiscal representative or treasurer. As with the fiscal representative role, only one of these two leadership roles may be used by an organization, and only one person may be assigned to the role at any given time. If you are having trouble determining who is assigned to the roles in your organization, or if your organization currently does not have an OEDS administrator, please contact the data custodian for your organization type for additional assistance. To find the correct person, please search for data custodian or OEDS on the department website. All 70 organization types are listed on the page with a link to contact information for the appropriate department personnel who can assist. I hope this presentation has been helpful. If you have any additional questions, please direct them to CRF Connect at education.ohio.gov or reach out to the grants manager assigned to your organization in the CCIP. You can find your assigned grants manager in the address book in the CCIP. The department can also be reached through any of these social media platforms. Thank you.